welcome to the Abundant Life Center service for Sunday, April 13th, 2025. And our speaker today is going to be Eric Inglin, and he'll be talking on how to what is reality. So we'll go off into existential quantum thought patterns here. All right, so I'm going to begin our service by lighting the God candle. I'm going to light this candle as a symbol of the one power in the universe known by many names. The name you choose to use for the divine is welcome here. And because of our first meeting of the month, we are going to share our beliefs. Our beliefs. Divine love is the source from which all of life flows. The direct experience of that ultimate source is available to all. All life is a unique expression of the divine to be revered. We co-create our world with the ultimate source and each other through consciousness. There is truth and wisdom in all spiritual paths, and we choose the path of love. Okay. All right. So Eric is going to start us off with our opening song, which is One Power by Daniel Nahmad. Okay, so now we're going to do a meditation, and that meditation is called Free Yourself from Ego's Grasp. Eric, do you want to introduce the meditation or anything, or is it you're muted?
Yeah, two things. So first, the song is a summary of what I'm going to talk about. The second is the ego. Pay attention to this meditation. We'll talk more about the ego later on in the discussion because it's an important component in how to say in this whole issue of reality. So yeah, let's listen to this meditation.
Okay, so Eric, please go ahead with your topic.
All right. So the topic that I want to bring forth is what is reality really? And I listen to a lot of spiritual stuff on YouTube and other channels, read books, and there's always tidbits of elements that come into the foreground about what reality is. But so I thought, okay, what can we do? There was no real videos that I could say, okay, let's play this video and this would be a good introduction to the topic. So I started to think about maybe just to do questions. What is your interpretation of what reality is? But not leave it with answers, because I mean, I could tell you what my reality is, but each one has his own reality in some ways. But then, like things happen synchronistically, I would say. Suddenly a video popped up that is recent from an interview with Deepak Chopra. And I thought, well, this is a bit long. It's an hour and 20 minutes. But if I cut it down to 18 minutes, I think I can communicate with that the essence of what reality is. Now, for some of you, it'll be like, okay, I know that, I don't know that, that's interesting. For others, it will be essentially brand new. And this is where I want you to pay attention to your ego. If it's totally clashing with what you know, you will notice your ego jumping in and saying, "That's not possible. That's really not what it is. That's not my experience," and so on. But ask the ego to just step aside and let the information flow. It doesn't necessarily want to give you answers. It more wants you to ask your own questions about what reality is, but from a perspective of what Deepak Chopra has experienced. So I'm going to run this essentially video put together, and we'll discuss that on the other side. I think we lost Paul.
Yeah, he's there. He's awake. Deepak Chopra has a very calming, soothing voice that I
He
think would
does,
put anybody to sleep.
yeah.
But
So obviously, it's pushing the whole issue way far out. Okay, and so yeah, let's have a discussion about what you understood or what does that mean for you. Laurel, you wanted to say something.
well, I've listened to Deepak for a long time, and I think I'm finally beginning to get it. I always knew that I just knew he was saying something that I needed to hear. And I actually, like when he started talking, I was like, my brain started going into kind of this fog of, oh, I'm never going to get it. But then I kept listening and I actually had glimpses of it, of being in the lucid dream. I really feel like I'm getting a grip on it now. So anyway, that's my input is that's like a minor miracle right there. It's just hard because we have to interact with all these other lucid dreams. That's the hard part for me is like how do you be in the lucid dream and live with the other people having their lucid dreams? To me, that's the translation part of it is
But
tricky.
does it change your perception a little bit if you think everybody is having their dream? So if I don't like these other people's behavior, maybe I shift the dream so that I'm not stuck in their dream patterns that I don't like, or if you can just be like, oh yeah, well if I'm orchestrating the dream, I can make my sister nicer to me or something like that.
Uh, I don't think I've gotten that far. No.
Well, to that effect, he says two important things. One is the fact that we are really avatars, right? In a way of our consciousness. And the second is that we are here to experience it. You can read about it and listen about it as much as you want, but unless you get to the point of the experience, you have really not much of what you came here to do. So you got to live it. And I think what you're saying, Laurel, is that you get a glimpse, and this is the important part, is this glimpse is actually the experience of what is going on.
Good. It's taken a while.
It does. It does. I listen to a lot of, like I said, to spiritual stuff, and there's a lot of repetition. But to get it into your brain, past the filter of the subconscious and the ego, it takes hammering, it goes easy for kids because they are, a blank slate. But once you're not a blank slate, only repetition will allow you to get over this hurdle. Anybody else?
There was a comment that he made, and I didn't quite get all of it. He went a little fast. This is kind of one of those lectures
It was
where
dense.
I wrote down the title of the whole thing so I could go in and listen to the whole hour and a half. Um, But if you're not experiencing synchronicity, he said something like, if you're not experiencing synchronicity, you are not in, and then I missed you.
You're not connected with the spiritual part, which is actually yourself.
Right.
So you're not connected with yourself, which is on the unity consciousness level.
So,
and I have a little diagram here that I want to show you that expresses that a little bit, and I think that's important enough.
oh, well, you made lots of notes.
Here, yeah, I'll show you the note. So this is your body with your chakras, right? This is your mind, ego, shadow self, your traumas, your soul, your higher self, and unity consciousness, your higher self, which is part of this unity consciousness. And if you look at energy flow in this direction up and down, you have this ego
The
mind
filter.
essentially in the middle of it. So if you have this blocking your flow and hijacking essentially this interaction between soul and higher self and your body, then you will not be connected to the unity consciousness.
So is there like a little 5-step how-to pamphlet that, 1, 2, 3, I need to do these 3 things and then I can have it?
Well, there is.
Okay, I'm always looking for the easy answer.
Right. Well, there is an easy answer. One is to, how shall I say, not discount, but ask your ego to step aside in every situation that you are in and to communicate directly with your soul. What it does, it bypasses your shadow, your traumas, and everything in one step. The thing is, the ego is not going away that easily. It will get back to you in some potentially nasty ways that you have to be conscious about and keep working on asking it to step out and not to be interfering with your communication with the soul. And this is not just an immediate step. It's something that you got to work on and be attentive to. When is your ego stepping in or wanting to step in, and asking it to step out? That's how you can essentially prevent to have to do all the shadow work, which is hard because your subconscious is a machine that has been programmed by you, and now it's just doing things automatically. It's like driving, right? It just happens. And here, your reactions and everything that you have stored through your experience are also in your ego mind or in subconscious mind. And to reprogram that, again, repetition, 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 repetition. That's the only thing that works to reprogram that. But you can get around it by connecting directly to the soul. And to do that, you just talk to your soul consciously. Just have a relationship with your soul, and ask for guidance. But you gotta listen to a voice that is much more silent. The ego is loud and is direct and is expressive, whereas the soul is not loud and is not expressive. So there is some work to do with trying to get to this connection that Deepak was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense?
Cindy?
Yes. Cindy?
I have found just lately with my deconstruction of my fundamental Christianity and basically praying or asking, and I realized just lately, like I still feel like I sort of ask God for help. It's not like it used to be. And I just realized, like on your chart there, I can ask my higher self for guidance or wisdom. And it seems odd to me, but that's still relatively new. Like, oh, but what does my higher self sound like? I'm so used to the guidance coming even still from scripture or what I think God is really saying, but I'm trying to sort of I guess change my concept of God still, but the idea of asking my higher self, like you just said, Eric, it's a much quieter voice, and I almost feel like even in actual listening, like if somebody's whispering, or I'm like, what are you saying? And I'm doing that with my higher self, like, is that really you, or is that my ego tricking me? So it's sort of I'm sure it's been happening all along, but the fact that I can ask my higher self, like, who is that, and what is she, he, it, whatever sound like? So it's a challenge, and I think there's a trust in, that old saying, universe is conspiring on your behalf. I'm thinking, is it really?
Absolutely.
Can I trust that all this is working out, and I can be guided? So I got in late today, and the discussion with Deepak was already happening, but it just kind of grabbed me right away, like, oh. And the whole idea about spontaneity, I think Kate mentioned that, like, oh, I think spontaneous things happen to me all the time. And so I must be doing something right.
Oh, Cindy, you have got such a powerful connection with your higher self, with that imagination and the flow that you get into when you're what you used to call your prophetic words. That is your full on, full open tap from the universe and from the God. You have such that creative ability to find answers when you get into your what you used to call prophetic words, and I don't know what you call it today, but that is such a quick snap connection that you have to your higher self. It's really strong. The force is strong in you.
Now,
well, what I do is somebody will say to me, like down here where I see old friends and stuff, it's like, well, what do you think that was when you prophesied? And I go, it's just my brain making up stuff. So I'll take your answer. I'll take your answer.
That's right. Higher self connection.
This is an important point. We discount our imagination way, way too much. You have to realize that imagination is the first step to the creation. Our creative world in the 3D is so dense. It takes time and repetition on the imagination side until what you have imagined is also realized in the 3D. So don't discount imagination, because imagination is the first step to manifestation, to the creation. And it's an integral part of every one of us. Whatever you imagine is true. When you speak, you create. Okay? It's just that we do it so chaotically that it doesn't matter, because today we say we want that, tomorrow, 5 minutes later, we want something else, and so on. But if you focus on one thing that you want, you will manifest it, because when you speak, you create. Okay?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, Eric. This is too complicated for me, but in a way, it's kind of simple too. You know about my dog walk, where I walk my mile, and I'm trying to practice what Jesus said, love your neighbors yourself. And I got a whole bunch of neighbors out there to practice on. But I find that I don't remember where I read it, but there was a book I read about I'm okay, you're okay. You ever remember that one?
Yep.
Yeah. It's an old one.
I'm okay, you're okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know the depth of most of these people, what they believe. But for some reason, practicing that idea that if I can talk in such a way, meet my neighbors in such a way that I let them know that I think that they're okay, and then somehow they seem to think that I'm okay. It's a, and I can't tell you how to do it, but I do it because I kind of sense where they are in their life and what they're doing, and sometimes it's just a simple little thing. What's that little gadget you're working with?
We have a hard time to recognize what he's addressing as synchronicities. These synchronicities happen all the time. Understood that you are connected with spirit. If your ego is so strong in the middle and you don't have these synchronicities, you will not only not recognize them, but they won't happen. But if you pay attention and you're connected, you will notice that this synchronicity happens in very subtle ways.
Yeah.
Where you say, oh yeah, this is normal, but really it's not if you think about it. I have not everyday synchronicities, but regularly synchronicities where they happen unexpectedly. And then you say, oh, okay, there's more to it than just me. There's something behind that makes it happen. And the one that I brought one time before to you was about when we came back from California and there was a big sandy storm on the East Coast. And we landed in, I don't remember, Cleveland or something. And we rented a car, and it wasn't the car that I wanted. The lady said, oh, I have a better car for you. I didn't ask anything. She just said, I have a better car for you. And I said, oh, no, this is not the car I wanted. Okay. And then it clicked. It said, hey, wait a minute. You got to take the car that she offers. And this was the best car to drive in 8 hours of pouring rain all the way home. The other one would probably have been a disaster. But these are the synchronicities that we need to recognize and say, oh, okay, there's more behind it than just, what I thought is right.
Well, and it's also very convenient to ride places with you because you always get a parking spot right in front of where you want to be. So,
Gotta ask.
as long as you remember to ask. Sometimes
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, I forgot to ask for a parking spot, and then we never find one.
Yeah, Arlene.
This is a fun discussion. I really am enjoying it. I believe that I play a huge part in creating my own reality and creating my own experience. And I remember what I experienced in a sweat lodge was different than what other people experienced in the sweat lodge. And when I'd go in there and it'd be so hot, I could hardly breathe, and I could get down into the earth and feel the energy of the earth coming through me. And I could see lights over people's heads, and that was their spirit. And the lights sometimes would have different colors, and sometimes the colors would be all the same. And there were times that I communicated with the trees. I would go out into the woods and like hug and hold the trees, and I could feel that tree energy coming up, and it could come into me if we wanted to, and we could communicate. I could communicate with the trees, and then I could communicate with the grass and the different animals. And sometimes I communicate with my kitty in different ways, and so what we do and how we do it and how we create our own reality about it. Some people think, oh, that's nuts. She's as crazy as she wants to be. I think that's really true. I'm as crazy as I want to be. I could be like all the way nuts if I wanted to be, or any degree of anything. And my experience is my own. My experience is not yours. I can share it with you, and you can understand what it would be like to hug a tree and feel that energy and feel that light and feel that life. And we can do that with the colors, and the rhododendrons out there are blooming and they're doing their thing and they're starting to open. And the way they do that is just, and then they have this burst of light and color and energy, but they don't live for very long. You know, those flowers just kind of, oh, and they absorb back into the earth and make more earth that is more fertile and more growing and more stuff. And it's a ton of fun, and our experiences are all different from one another. I can say mine is right, and y'all who've never hugged a tree don't really know God. You don't really know what I know, and you just don't know it, you know, you don't get it. And I'm sorry you don't get it. And I wish that I could teach it to you and share that with you. But in the long run, I like it because it's mine, you know, and what I know and what I have is mine. And so I create my own reality and how I feel about colors and life and communication. And it has everything to do with what I eat, you know, and what I had for dinner last night, and how I feel and how I slept, and did I get enough sleep, and those kinds of things. I love this talk. It's great.
How about
Anybody else?
Carol? You haven't chimed in this morning. I'm sure a lot of this discussion is right on your path of awareness. You're muted.
Yeah, I have had synchronicities a lot in my life, one way or another. Like the cat I have. She's perfect. She doesn't jump up on things. She doesn't scratch the furniture. She loves her litter box. She knows how to communicate with me, and I with her. I don't have to yell at her if she's doing something wrong. I just quietly say no, and she stops. I've never had a cat like this, but it's perfect for my age.
How did you meet? How did you meet this cat?
At the Humane Society, my other cat had died just before I left, and I thanked it for being out of my life because my life was going to be very complicated. And so I thanked Sheba for leaving me when she did. And then when I got here and I got things settled down, I realized that I needed another being with me in the house. And so I decided to see what the Humane Society had.
What triggered you to go a particular day versus another day? Was there an event that was associated with that, or something? Because the synchronicity typically happens at multiple level. The first one being to put you into motion, right? So there's some things that happened that you put
There was
you
an
into
emptiness
motion.
that needed to be filled.
Okay. So
And
that drove you to go to the Humane Society.
well, the emptiness realized that I needed to fill it. And I realized that I missed Sheba and her being around. And I said, I've got to go find another being here to be with me.
Well, it could have been today, tomorrow, a week from now, 2
It could
weeks, a
be, yeah,
month.
but I actually do not remember specifically the day, time, hour, or second that it came to me, but it did come.
Don't you think the cat had something to do with coming to you?
I think she must have, because she looked at me where she was sitting, and I looked at her and I just thought, actually, I saw her on television because I was looking for cats in the Humane Society through the computer screen. And as they went through the cats and I looked at it and I saw her and I just thought, she is beautiful. Now, someone else may have thought she was beautiful, but me and my brain thought she was beautiful. And so when I went down there and talked to them, they said, she's very feral. She's had to be socialized for a couple of months before we would even put her out. And she's
perfect.
and she sheds like crazy. And I said, well, I know about cats that don't want to be touched. I know about shedding. Of course, I didn't know this kind of shedding because when she jumps up on the windowsill, the hair flies. I've never had a cat that had hair fly off them when they moved. But so because of my time in life, I'm really not interested in training a cat or worrying about a cat. I don't want to have to worry about a cat. And this is a perfect cat for me.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, I mean, if the cat was meant to be with you and you with the cat, there would have been synchronicities that would have led you to this cat.
Yes.
And sometimes it's difficult to figure out what it was because we just take, it's life just moves on and everything is good. And we talk about chance and, we were at the right place at the right moment. Doesn't happen this way. Okay. Because you were guided to be at the right place at the right moment.
And I get a lot of guidance too. So
Yeah.
remember, I told you a long time ago that I heard a voice tell me I'll be with you through the rest of it. I don't know who that was or what that was, but it was just there. So I said, okay, whatever. And then, Arlene, I hug trees. And when I hug a tree, I say, thank you, tree. But I never thought about listening to the tree. That's interesting.
Isn't it interesting? It's fun too. My friend John has a relationship with birds who are coming to. John is not a bird guy. He's like smart. He does music and this stuff, and it comes through, and it's in computers and all this stuff. And he had this little blue jay came knocking on his door, and this blue jay. I told him the blue jay is hungry and blue jays want to eat peanuts. He wants peanuts. This is the kind of peanuts. And then he got peanuts for this bird. And then this bird started coming and all these other birds have come to him. And I sent him a bird book and there's this big bird thing that's happening. And now the bird has a friend. This bird his name became Custer. And now there's another blue jay and he's Buster. So we got Buster and Custer and each one has its own character and knocks on the door. And then there was a woodpecker that would ring John's doorbell. John made a doorbell that would ring music, and play this music. And this bird would ring the doorbell when he wanted peanuts. And then it was a woodpecker. And then the woodpecker ended up breaking the doorbell. And John moved the doorbell to the up. He's way out in the country on 104 acres. And why put a doorbell on your back door that rings music? It doesn't make sense to me. It made sense to the to the woodpecker. And he ended up going up there and learning where the doorbell was upstairs and ringing the doorbell. And John would bring him peanuts. And it's a thing, and it's wonderful. I get to hear those stories. And I love these birds, I love these birds. And I have never met them alive in person. And it's great. It's just, I don't know how we do it, but we do that and we connect with what we want to connect with and what we need. And sometimes we connect with what we don't need. And it comes to us and we don't want it and we don't need it. And that's life and go away, and how we do that and how we do relationship with one another and how we talk and how we share and how we are in the world is so amazing. And the part that we play in creating that with other beings is amazing to me too. Isn't that?
Absolutely.
It's
and another thing, besides saying thank you to trees, I say thank you to my toes. And I say thank you to other parts of my body. And I say thank you to my couch. And I say thank you to the people that I know, like all of you. When I think of you, I say thank you. And then your name. And I just started that the last year when somebody said, "What are you grateful for?" And I couldn't stop. It's just everything. So I started naming.
In this wheelchair, I'm not all that happy, and I get mad and I get cranky and I fuss at the chair and the chair would break and I call my brother to help me fix it and all this stuff happens. So they don't have to be living things that we have these relationships with, and how we do it, and the life lessons that are involved in it and all of that. It's just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and your
Couple things to that.
your chair is a living thing. All of those molecules and all of that energy that is running in those atoms and stuff, that is energy too.
Well, it's so
That
Eric.
that plus we often forget how many people were involved to create your chair. Okay, there are, when you start going through it, through the whole logistics chain, creating the materials and so on to put the chair together, it's hundreds, sometimes thousands of people, and they all put some awareness, some consciousness into this chair, and we tend to forget that. A couple more things that I wanted to add to that. The first thing he says, form. I mean, consciousness informs form, which is correct, because consciousness essentially, in some ways, create form, but form with our sensors informs consciousness. So we are essentially walking sensors that informs back consciousness to create another experience. It's this continuous cycle that is going on between consciousness and your body, which is a sensor moving around to give back information to consciousness. And I think this is an important factor in that. And the other things that underlines consciousness tremendously is the fact that, for instance, if you take a hydrogen atom, right, it's one proton, one electron. And the proton, if you imagine that it's the size of a basketball, the electron is 7 miles out, okay? 7 miles. So there's emptiness everywhere between the proton and the electron. Even so, we have zillions of protons and electrons in our everything, molecules and cells and so on. This is why he says, Deepak says that if God would look at him and see what it is made of in the perspective of the universe, in the density of the universe, it would be only emptiness. Some pixel here, some pixel there. That would be you put together into a human form, but held together by consciousness. So really, we are all consciousness. Everything is consciousness. Everything else is not real. It's just
That's interesting, because a long time ago, somebody asked me about manifestation. And I said, well, I think of manifestation as all of these atoms and molecules out in the universe. And my thought that I want this starts bringing them together into form.
That's exactly what it is. That's consciousness putting into form. It needs a little bit more intelligence than the experience that we have in 3D to sustain a human body, right? This is where consciousness is infinite and probably infinitely intelligent, but it is really that.
I have one of the people, I'm going to share something with you without naming a name, in one of our dementia support groups, and he has a problem where his eyes see perfectly, but his brain lies to him about what he's seeing. And how he first realized that was happening was he was driving down the road, and all of a sudden the car in front of him disappeared. It didn't fade away. It just simply wasn't there.
Mm.
And when they started testing him, they realized that his vision was perfect, but this part of the brain that interprets the vision and tells you what it is was scrambling it for him.
Mm.
So a glitch in his avatar.
Yeah, essentially you could say that.
Wow.
But the other thing that is important also for us is that consciousness informs your body. So you can work with consciousness, which is your higher self, to make corrections, right? There's no reason why you can't.
Yes.
Well, yeah, and you've
Right.
done that as well, Carol, with you've done that as well with
I
telling
have,
your
yeah.
body parts to move when you wanted them to go.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's also a long time ago a book I read about the Outback. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of it. But I heard the person who wrote the book lecture, and she was studying the Outback, the native peoples there. And they found out that she wanted to know, and so they kidnapped her and took her to their village. And they threw her clothes in a fire, and she was talking about just being totally surprised, but out of part of her okay with what was happening. And she learned a lot of things there. But one of the things that startled her and startled me was that they sensed that one of their people who had broken their leg hunting far, far away, and they started singing, and they sang his leg to heal.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Yeah, the Aboriginals are so magical and so powerful.
Greg Braden has a video out there where in China they were a group of doctors and nurses, about 5-6 person, who were working on one person who had cancer. And you could see on the video instantly the healing of it, where essentially the cancer shrunk. As they said, it is done. I mean, it is done. It is done. It is done in terms of eliminating the cancer. It's a pretty amazing video. It's older. It's a few years old, but it's an amazing video.
Now, Eric, I have a question about that. Were they saying it's done in the terms of love
Yes.
and not hate and getting rid of?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
In terms of healing, in terms of love, yes.
I think it was like a tumor in a bladder or something like that. And they ultrasound of it as they were healing it.
And it took a few minutes to heal.
Isn't that amazing? I think of, Steve Irwin is that guy that had his relationships with all these animals and loved them and had this healing experience and this growing thing. And he got stung by a jellyfish. And of course, he died and the jellyfish died. And that's heartbreaking. And it was so sad. And Steve has kids and girls and a boy, and these kids are now kind of having the same thing with animals and growing and learning and sharing and making movies about it and doing all that and that whole life experience. But the beginning and the ending and the part that everybody plays in that, the part that the jellyfish played in Steve's birth and death and dying and in the kids and their life experience with that, the whole thing about life experience is all in it,
Well, this all informed consciousness in a new way, right? Maybe an experience as such never happened before. I mean, it's all unique. It's all infinitely small in terms of little variations that add to the full picture of what is all possible. They're all little pieces of a puzzle, right? That are added to these experiences.
The same puzzle. When it gets all put together, it's the same picture, maybe.
Yeah. Cheryl, you hadn't commented. Do you have anything that you want to say? No. All right, that's all what I wanted to say about reality. It's something that I felt over the years developing in this direction, and Deepak Chopra really put it into a few words. The video is very intense, very dense, and I understand that. And I had the benefit to listen to it a few times as I put my pieces together. But it's worthwhile to listen to the whole thing if you have the time.
So you'll send that link to Cheryl, and
yes.
Cheryl will send it with the meeting synopsis. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And yet we still have to do the laundry.
Oh yeah. Yeah. All those things. Occasionally vacuum. Okay, guys. We have a closing song called life is a dream. Shaboom, shaboom. And so with that, we now will have our closing circle, and then we'll stop the recording. So let's greet each other with namaste. 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 Thank you, everyone. Okay. Just as a reminder, Abundant Life Center is an independent spiritual community, and we're entirely supported by God's love and your gifts. So with heartfelt gratitude, we accept all gifts and commit them to the Abundant Life Center for our members, our church, and for the world. If you'd like to make a donation over and above what you already donate every month, the information will come out to you in an email as to how you can do that. Or you can go to our website. You can also do, I think there's a way to donate on our website. And so now it's time for